working out of the NAMI, California's Sacramento office. Today's presentation will address the ongoing needs and concerns of peers with lived experience working or volunteering in the workplace of public mental health. This course will be presented by Connie Burgess of C. Burgess Consulting and Associates. As a consumer and a family member, Connie wears many hats of experience within the corporate world as an advocate, consultant, and trainer. As a trainer, she specializes in training that engage workshop learners to understand the role of being a peer and peer advocate, to articulate peer job responsibilities, to role model and be effective within the role as a peer, and finally to understand plus implement strategies to assist in the transformation of California's mental health system. This presentation will provide each of you with skills and strategies to be successful both within the workplace environment and along your career pathway. Working well together serves as a technical assistance center and in a collaborative partnership with United Advocates for Children and Families, CAMPRO's peers, and California Institute for Mental Health. Each partner provides workforce development resources such as trainings, presentations, e-learning series, and other social networking outlets. Through interactive learning opportunities, you will build capacity along with your workforce team, professional associations, and community networks. Now let's begin improving our work environment through transformational leadership. First, I'll cover the webinar protocol for today. This presentation today will be both formal and informal opportunities for discussion. Everyone has been muted so we may provide a clear, quiet background to enhance your learning experience. I will be monitoring the activities board and pass along your questions to Connie. Please use the chat box located at the right side of your viewing screen. The raisins of hands feature will be used by Connie for immediate responses throughout this broadcast. We look forward to your contributions as providing possible solutions to a given question or sharing a personal lived experience observation. Copies of this PowerPoint will be sent to your email account. After this presentation is over, please fill out the brief evaluation. Finally, I look forward to future discussions regarding your identified leadership style. My contact information will be posted at the end of Connie's presentation. So now I'll turn it over to Connie to begin with today's objectives. Okay, let me make sure that I haven't muted Connie by mistake. Sorry for this, everyone, but it was working fine earlier. Okay, Connie?
Very good. There you go. Hello, everyone. How you like the technical difficulties?
Right off the bat.
It's really good to be here. I want to make sure that everyone can hear me. Can you raise your hand? On the right side, you'll see a feature where you can raise your hands. I want to see if everyone can hear me. Do you have that function?
Okay, I see 3 so far, 4.
Okay, if everyone raises their hand, that would help me a great deal to know that I'm reaching everyone.
Looks like there's about 4 that aren't.
Okay. If you cannot hear me, then you won't know what I'm saying. And perhaps our organizer can send a message out to everyone on the list and have them reply back to him to make sure that they can hear this presentation. But as we move forward, I wanted to first welcome you. You'll find that this topic of transformational leadership is going to be well suited for the peer role. And when I talk about peer, I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about anyone who has a lived experience, having survived the experience, and is now in a position to help share the knowledge they've gained with others to pull them through their own experiences. The objectives we have for today are here to help you to understand how to identify today's workforce issues. They may not be what you actually see, they may be more what you feel or what you perceive, but this conversation should help you really to get to the source. We're also going to examine the core elements of transformational leadership. We're going to describe the role of the leader as well as the role of the follower. And we're going to explore benefits of transformational leadership in the workplace. And what we want to do, again, is to try to make sure that everyone is ready for the presentation. So let me see your hands again. Great. Thanks. Peers are actually followers who go beyond their own self-interest by becoming aware of the larger issues and reaching toward a common goal. As this type of follower, we need what is termed as transformational leaders. Most of us are transformational leaders. We are facilitators of change, and we move the process of change through the organization. The transformational leaders achieve change that reflects the common interests of both the leaders and the followers. And I have sources for many of the comments that I make today, and I'll be glad to share them with you if you have an interest. But know that this is literature-reviewed information that I'm sharing with you. And right now, that information has come from Bennis, B-E-N-N-I-S, and NANUS, N-A-N-U-S, 2007. You know, there is a sense of possibility and vision for the future. It's created because of what we do. We do peer support. We've got the case of the I can't help it. It's part of who we are. Part of the mission of family and consumer engagement is to help change the culture, lead the cultural change. All of that within the mental health system, from encouraging dependence to being recovery wellness oriented. Our role in systems change can cause workforce as well as workplace issues. There is a national trend towards integrating peer services within the traditional delivery system. Peer support is not about joining a club for the mentally ill. It's not a competition of stories or symptoms or about being rescued or treated as a child. Peer support is an inclusive model that creates room for all people to fully experience being who they are, growing in the directions of their choice, and in the process of being supported in these goals, begin to help restructure larger systems. Peer support is emerging as a reliable resource for making employment successful. This session will help you to understand the opportunities for use of peer support. When deliberately provided as a part of the support system, peers play a significant role in recovery and long-term success on the job. The employment of peer specialists is often seen as an innovative practice. This practice does not yet enjoy the status of a fully integrated profession. Peer specialists are often described as an adjunct to existing services rather than an integral component of meaningful and effective services. This climate lends itself to a lack of availability of extra funds for the recruitment, training, and hiring of peer specialists, which is often a critical factor. I believe perhaps our organizer might want to mute himself. It will help in the delivery of the training. Thank you. Now, peer support can help those that we serve and the settings that we serve them in, help us to focus on the recovery needs of consumers. In this way, peer supports can assist the state's mental health system in its transformation process towards recovery/wellness orientation, but not without certain leadership or workplace challenges. When we try to do this, stuff happens. And you can see the very long list of some, just very little of the sum of stuff that happens in the workplace. And I think those who are peers on the line would probably agree with me. When solving problems, we need to be focused on prevention, not blame. And in terms of quality, we must define and measure it. Quality is a moving target and must always be current. Quality provides a competitive edge, especially when we do things right the first time. Let's focus on results, outcomes, which should be strongly embedded in the culture of our service and also linked to cost. Now I'd like to take a sample survey with you to help determine your leadership factors. Should only take a second. Okay, as we go on to the next slide, we're going to show you the results of your poll. I guess it didn't happen this time. We'll look for it the next time. So what happens? What happens when transformation occurs? Oh, there we go. Look at that. Look at your percentages. And what I want to share with you at this point is that there is a survey that will be provided to you at the end of this webinar that helps you determine the strengths and the weaknesses in particular factors of leadership. And what you see here are your preferences in a particular leadership style that is associated with this question. And it looks like a whole lot of you reply that they do understand the vision. And that's really good. We want to get that number to be 100%. But there was a percentage of rarely 11% that's rather high. So we've got a high end of almost always at 11%, and we've got a low end of rarely at 11%. Isn't that very interesting? And the thick of things are in the very middle. So that means that we still need to work on sharing the vision of our organization. The employment of peers is really important. It's important because transformation occurs when the leaders create a vision for the transformation, and when the peers understand that vision, they can move things forward. Transformation happens when people managing a system focus on creating a new future that has never existed before, and based on continual learning and a new mindset, take different actions than they would have taken in the past. With transformational leadership, we look for ways to bring out the best in staff, to help them to grow, search for new opportunities that the staff want to participate in, and as the staff grow, they rise to the occasion. What you will find is that transformational leaders can initiate, they can develop, and they can carry out significant changes in organizations, creating new directions and systems thinking. This new thinking embodies and values the work of the employee, the work environment, the organization, and overall peer and family satisfaction. Transformational leadership is broadly researched. It has an intuitive appeal because it makes sense to people and it attracts them. It is process-focused, expansive, it can grow in its view, and expands other leadership models. Transformational leadership emphasizes the follower's needs, the follower's values, and the follower's morals, as well as its effectiveness. In general, staff should have a sense of dignity about working for their organization. They should feel that they are respected and treated with dignity. In turn, they will be inspired to treat their coworkers and consumers with dignity and respect. Laissez-faire translates to leave due in French. It describes a system by which leadership takes a handoff approach. Rather than attempting to micromanage, laissez-faire leaders allow their subordinates to work under their own direction to achieve a more general set of goals. The absence of leadership, hands-off, let things right approach, refers to a leader who surrenders responsibility, delays decisions, gives no feedback, and makes little effort to help followers satisfy their needs. Now, laissez-faire leadership may be actually the best or the worst of leadership styles. Now, if the leader follows the normally understood definition and standard practice of non-interference and hands-off, when supposedly leading his or her followers, the worst form of leadership is manifested. However, when the 21st century properly prepares his or her followers, laissez-faire leadership emerges as the ultimate form of leading. The two words laissez-faire and leadership are absolute opposite from each other. Now, before a leader is strong enough to lead, they need to have a personal transformation. A leader's behavior influences and motivates others, so it's very important that a leader does a self-evaluation. And as we look at this leadership wheel, one of the areas we could look at is, let's say, adapts through learning. The leader has to make time and space for reflecting and developing new ideas. The leader has to make time to understand the challenges that are set before them. And they have to use knowledge to aid in the future development of solving the problem. How about self-aware? You have to be self-disciplined. You can't be yelling and screaming and hooting and hollering because you don't think it's right. And you have to be willing to develop yourself further. You can't go out and say, I know everything and there's nothing more that I can learn, or I don't need to listen because I don't want to know. And you have to be self-motivated. You can't expect others to motivate you. As a leader, you have to motivate yourself. Looks to the future. You know, that leader thinks and acts strategically, thinking about relationships and what's the best way to do this and who is the best person to get involved and where is the best place to get that done. And they have clear intentions on why they are doing what they're doing. And they use the foresight that they have very well. And they get that foresight from information and the knowledge and the education that they gain. Those leaders also ask vital questions. They make sense of available information. They listen well, and they internalize things, and they listen to things externally too, what's going on around them, and they recognize patterns in how things are working so that they can help resolve challenges or help people to learn what the system's like. That leader also designs intelligent action, commits to action, uses information to plan, and has a long-term and a really good, well-rounded perspective. The interesting thing about this wheel is that a lot of people think that holding on to information, holding on to secrets of knowledge is the best way to give yourself power. But being a transformational leader, you have to share all of that. You have to give all of that away because you are growing people. You are growing situations. You are changing things that require the information that may be available to you. And that leader also aligns people to action, engages and communicates well with others, and understands others and attracts resources. That's really important because we cannot work without resources. We need those things. And that leader has to be in a position to be able to strategize, develop relationships, or whatever it takes to make those resources available. The leader is attentive to the needs and motives of followers and tries to help followers reach their fullest potential. It's a process of engaging with others to create a connection that increases motivation and morality in both the leader and the follower. Now, according to Kuze, I believe it is, Kouzes, and Posner, Pozner, in 1987 and 2002, transformational leadership challenges the process. The leaders are like pioneers who are willing to innovate, grow, take risks, and improve things. These leaders enables others to act, creating environments where people can feel good about their work and how it contributes to the greater community. Transformational leaders encourage the heart by using authentic celebrations and rituals to show appreciation and encouragement to others. It's time for another sample survey. All right, we're closing the poll. Let's see what happened. So I let others work in the manner that they want. And it looks like many of you do it often, and some of you do it almost always, and that none of you do it rarely, and that some of you do it sometimes. So that's not good, and that's not bad. What that does is it tells you your strength, because these are factors that are going to tie to a survey. At the end, you're going to see the results. Not at this time, when you take your own survey, you're going to see the results that these factors are areas in which you can be strong in, or you can be strengthened in, or that you can reduce a little bit. Let's go on to the next slide. We want to talk about this whole thing about transformational leadership and any new ideas that are brought into an organization or any working community. Maximizing the adoption of what I would call evidence-based practice has been argued to be a major factor in determining mental health service outcomes. However, there are gaps between evidence-based recommendations and how those recommendations are actually delivered. Now, Rogers' diffusion of innovation model says that there are stages of adoption that one goes through. And the first of that being awareness. The individual is exposed to that innovation, let's say transformational leadership, but they lack complete information about it. So they're being aware of, and they're not really ready to take on the task. But they could become an early innovator, or they could be an early innovator, and of which out of the entire population of people experiencing the change, about 2.5% of those people will jump right on board and say, yeah, transformational leadership. Then there are those who have interest, and the individual becomes interested in the new idea, and they seek additional information about it. And as the innovators go through their process, that 2.5%, the early adopters are actually watching the innovators to see what kind of data they produce. And if they produce sufficient data and information, then they may jump on the bandwagon, and that's why they're called early adopters, because they wait and see, but then they adopt the new innovation, and that represents about 13.5% of those changing people. And then there is evaluation, where the individual mentally applies the innovation to his present situation and anticipates future situation, and then decides whether or not to try it. So they're basing it on their own information, their own experiences and knowledge before they decide whether they're going to adopt it. And they will be the people probably in the early majority to the late majority, but they each represent half of the entire group that will accept that new or adopt that new innovation. I also need you to recognize that there are people that they call laggards, and you may have heard of this, that are like the 15 to 16% who may never come aboard, who will just stay where they are and never change. They will represent the history of where we've come from, and those people can contribute as well, because we do need some stability in some practices and not have certain things change. But bridging that evidence gap will not be achieved simply by informing clinicians about the evidence. One theoretical approach to understanding how change may be achieved, as I said, is through Rogers' diffusion model. And he argues that certain characteristics of the innovation itself may facilitate the adoption, and other factors influencing acceptance include the promotion by people of influence. How do they put forth this new innovation? How important do they make it seem? And the ability to test and modify the procedure before adopting it. How do we try out this new approach before we actually say everybody change over when we may not have worked out all of the wrinkles? The diffusion model may provide valuable insights into why some practices change and others do not, as well as guiding those who try to affect adoption of best evidence practice. Now, charisma is a special personality characteristic, and this is something that you will be tested on in the survey. It gives a person superhuman or exceptional powers, as it's reserved for a very small few. It's of divine origin and results in the person being treated as a leader, according to Weber in 1947. Charismatic leadership transforms followers' self-concepts. They try to link identity of the follower to the collective identity of the organization, of which we should all do. Go Niners! I'm a Niners fan, and I am joining the collective organization of the 49ers. This type of leadership also expresses high expectations for the followers and helps followers gain a sense of self-confidence and self-efficacy. According to House in 1976, charismatic leadership theory, charismatic leaders act in unique ways that have specific charismatic effects on their followers. You can see the different personality characteristics, the dominant, the desire to influence, the confident, the strong values, and the behaviors that are exhibited by those characteristics and the effects on the followers. That's what a charismatic leader would do. So let us try to take another survey. All right. Looks like we can close the poll. And look at there. People listen to my ideas and concerns not out of fear, but because of my skills, knowledge, and personality. We've got over 50% of you saying that you are heard often. And we've got 36% saying that they're almost always heard. And that 9% of you say you're sometimes heard. But none of you said that you were rarely heard. So what I see is that there is a voice present, but that we have to expand that voice. And there are ways to make that happen. Transformational leadership addresses a characteristic associated with this particular skill. Let's go on to the next slide. You know, in 1978, James McGregor Burns defined the concept of transformational leader. His work has been continued and expanded upon by other researchers, including industrial psychologist Dr. Bernard Bass. Now, you'll hear about Bass more in the presentation, so remember that name, Dr. Bernard Bass. If you look at your transformational leader and you look at the definitions that you can find in particular places, one, the Wikipedia, looks at transformational leadership as a type of style where one engages people and engage with others, and that the leaders and the followers, they raise one another to a higher level of motivation and morality. And according to Tracy and Hinken in 1998, they say a transformational leader is a process that motivates people by appealing to higher ideas and moral values and defining and articulating a vision for the future and forming a base of credibility for everyone to participate in. What that transformational leadership does is it develops the employee's capability, and it leads people, followers, through change, and it leverages the emotional intelligence because peers are passionate people about what they do and how they do it and who they do it with. And that emotional intelligence has to be leveraged. That's where the change occurs. Building strategic relationships is also important, and that has already been demonstrated through working well together. It was pointed out earlier together how forming partnerships and creating an entity helps to leverage our resources much better. And translating our strategies into action. Let's not just talk about what we think we might want to do. Let us talk about what we should do and then actually get it done. So we talk about what is a transactional leader. Why are we bringing up transactional? Because it will be brought up whenever you talk about transformational leaders. Burns in 1978 describes a transactional leader as one who approaches followers with an eye to exchanging one thing for another. Transactional leaders are very aware of the link between putting in effort and then benefiting from rewards. They are responsive and very good at dealing with presenting issues. They also rely on standard forms of reward and punishment, such as in organizations' policies and procedures. Bass, Dr. Bernard Bass, who I spoke about earlier, in 1990 explains how transactional leaders motivate their followers by setting goals and promising rewards for desired performance. They rely on their power as a leader to reinforce their followers for their successful completion of the bargain. The simplest way to sum up these qualities of a transactional leader is to describe one as someone who gives followers something they want in exchange for something the leader wants. And if you look at the core components, that's where the transactional leadership ends, because it's based and contingent upon a reward and what the management is expected. And so they expect to get an outcome, and that's the end of the story. In regards to the transactional leader's followers, they engage them in a relationship of mutual dependence in which the contributions of both sides are acknowledged and rewarded, according to Kellerman in 1984. This makes the leader influential because doing what the leader wants is the best interest of the followers. There are advantages and disadvantages of transactional leadership. An advantage is that it clearly defines the roles and expectations from the leader and the followers. Rules are strictly followed. The disadvantage is that this leadership style is very direct. If a follower fails to deliver the expected output, then he may force or face consequences. Now, in terms of the transformational leader, Bass also suggested that there were 4 different components of transformational leadership, and you see them up there. Intellectual stimulation, individualized consideration, inspirational motivation, and idealized influence or consideration. In terms of intellectual stimulation, transformational leaders not only challenge the status quo, they also encourage creativity among followers. Now, the leader encourages followers to explore new ways of doing things and new opportunities to learn. In terms of individualized consideration, transformational leadership also involves offering support and encouragement to individual followers. In order to foster supportive relationships, transformational leaders keep lines of communication open so that followers feel free to share ideas and so that leaders can offer direct recognition of each follower's unique contribution, because everyone is unique. They don't offer the same thing. May offer similar things, but not the same exact thing in terms of peer support. Inspirational motivation, transformational leaders have a clear vision that they are able to articulate to the followers. And these leaders are also able to help followers experience the same passion and motivation to fulfill their own ideals. It's time for another survey. Let's see what you've got to say. That's good. Let's go to the next slide. I ensure others get recognition and rewards when they reach their goals. Now, one says rarely, and that's 8%. Two says sometimes, which is another 8%, but most of them say often, and 50% say almost always. I bet you this question has to do with transactional leadership, because you recognize people when they reach their goals, which is a good thing. We need to have that element. But if you don't recognize them at all, then people don't feel validated. And if you do it sometimes, then people don't look up to you. They don't feel safe, because they don't know really what you think, really what you like or don't like, because it's only sometimes. I like how that came out, but it's going to be real good to see the full results of the survey that you end up taking. Let's go to the next slide. So we talk about trust, respect, and admiration from followers. And according to leadership expert and presidential biographer James McGregor Burns, transformational leadership can be seen when leaders and followers make each other to advance to a higher level of morale and motivation. And it is moral is what is up there. But basically, we want you to feel a sense of obligation, of value that becomes a part of you related to the organization that you can also uphold, and that motivates you to do your job very well. You have achieved excellence as a leader when people will follow you anywhere, if only out of curiosity, says Colin Powell. Next slide. So, we're exploring the benefits of transformational leadership in the workplace environment. Bass defines a transformational leader as someone who transforms groups or organizations. A transformational leader really focuses on their followers. They want to motivate their followers to provide a high level of performance and, in turn, help their followers to develop and recognize their own leadership style. A transformational leader is very inspirational and has a great power and influence. And the reason there's a picture of President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama with the Native American community is that I truly believe that our president is a transformational leader, as the definition renders itself, that he does make change, and that he does create a vision, and that he does inspire others, and that he does appear to have great power as well as influence. When Bass describes the 4 components to transformational leadership: idealized influence, the leader serves as the ideal role model for the followers; inspirational motivation, the leader has the ability to inspire and motivate others or the followers; intellectual stimulation, the leader challenges followers to be innovative and creative; and individualized consideration, where the leader demonstrates genuine concern for the needs and feelings of followers. Evidence shows that groups and organizations led by transformational leaders have higher levels of performance and satisfaction than those led by other types of leaders. This is because they are more likely to inspire, empower, and stimulate their followers to exceed normal levels of performance as they hold positive expectations for them. Also, because transformational leaders care about their followers and their personal needs and development, they gain the most out of their employees, along with their respect. And that's according to Riggio, R-I-G-G-I-O, in 2009. Riggio also describes typical thinking of a transformational leader to be, I would never require a follower to do something I would not do myself. My followers would say that they know what I stand for. My followers would say I am very attentive to their needs and concerns. Another important point made by Bass in 1990 is that the transformational leader has an unswerving commitment that keeps their followers going, even though the harder times, when some may question whether the vision can ever really be achieved. And I think we're going to take just one more survey if it's not too much for you. Let's go. All right, let's close the poll. I provide challenges for my team members to help them grow. Wow, I like that 50%. We do it often. But we do have a percentage that rarely does help them to grow. And then we've got another percentage of 14% that sometimes provides challenges. And I'm not saying that you do it for any malicious or any other kind of reasons. There are reasons why we don't do this. Some of them are systems oriented. Some of them are program oriented, policy and procedure oriented. We can't do what we really want to do. And I bet you some of those often provide challenges, and they really aren't meant to be challenges, but they end up becoming challenges. Working with peers is a challenge, and that will surely help you to grow. Next slide. A transformational leader exhibits certain traits and behaves to inspire and motivate a team or organization to rally around a common vision or goal. Now, these behaviors and traits include charisma, intellectual stimulation, inspirational motivation, and individual consideration for each team or group member. For many reasons, transformational leadership is an important factor at both the micro, really small, or the individual level, and the macro, the very large, or organizational level, or the even societal level. Transformational leadership impacts individuals' self-growth. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs places self-actualization at the top of the needs pyramid and defines it as a person's full realization of his potential. When looking at transformational leadership, it helps transform members of a group into individuals who actually transcend beyond self-actualization and their own self-interest for the sake of the group or the organization. Along with this includes individual and moral development. Transformational leaders commit themselves to selfless ideals and align their personal principles and values with that of the organization, group, or even the society. The leader nurtures his followers' moral development to internalize these same values and principles. Transformational leadership develops followers who can perform beyond their own and others' expectations. Researchers who study and organizations that utilize transformational leaders frequently confirm this outcome. There was a 2002 article by Tally DeVir, that's DVIR, and others published in the Academy of Management Journal examined the effects of platoon leaders in a military basic training setting, exhibiting transformational leadership on cadets' performance. The researchers found that the experimental cadets, those under the leadership of the transformational platoon leaders, outperformed control cadets in every area, including weapons testing and obstacle courses. The impact of transformational leadership reaches every level of an organization. At the team level, you can find members that care, stimulate, inspire, and motivate each other. Bass and colleagues in their 1978 paper in Group and Organization Studies termed the effect that transformational leadership has throughout an organization as the falling dominoes effect. It's like that transformational leadership can make things just roll. Upper-level transformational leaders set an organization's direction and vision, influencing how lower levels of an organization operate. Transformational leadership can also help meet new challenges, such as during a company's reorganization, strategic redirectioning, or downsizing. Transformational leadership can be applied to a variety of settings. And also, according to Bass in his 1999 article published in the European Journal of Work and Organizational Psychology, transformational leadership is more effective than transactional leadership. And as we come to the ending of our presentation, I want to leave you with some strategies for workplace change and to let you know that you are the transformational leader making a phenomenal difference in mental health services, providing information, educational presentations, workshops, or seminars, or other presentations of data will help in changing the workplace, enhancing skills through those workshops and seminars, which would be designed to increase the skills of the participants, the members and staff, who need to achieve the proper outcomes that we're trying to achieve. Providing support, creating opportunities to support people to participate in activities that reduce risk or even enhance protection. Enhancing access and reducing barriers, improving systems and processes to increase the ease, the ability, and opportunity to utilize those systems and services, and changing consequences from incentives and taking out the disincentives, increasing or decreasing the probability of a specific behavior that reduces risk or enhances protection by altering the consequences for performing that behavior, increasing public recognition for a deserved behavior, and individual and business rewards. You know, the way you can disincentivize someone is perhaps to tax them or give them citations or fines or revoke them or have them lose privileges. But it's not about punishment. It's about consequences. Physical design, that's really important. Our workplaces need to be inviting. They need to be comfortable. They need to be open and help create innovation. By changing the physical design or the structure of the environment, it helps to reduce risk and also enhances protection. And the last thing is modifying and changing policies, which actually should be one of the first things. Formal change in written procedures, bylaws, proclamations, rules, or laws, or whatever that written documentation may be. It should change to reflect the new addition of the peer support role, because we are all followers who are agents of change, transformational leaders who can improve our own work environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. That was an excellent, excellent presentation. So I was wondering, can we take a few minutes to do questions and answers, because there was 3 people that had questions and I couldn't get it to work on this end?
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, attendees, is if I can have all of you raise your hands just to see if this is working on my end. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I believe, Lori, I'm going to unmute you, and if you can ask your question.
No, I don't have a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead and ask Connie your question. I've unmuted you.
Oh, I was wondering, will we be getting the copy of this webinar?
Yes. I'll be sending that to your email.
That's awesome. I've learned some beautiful, beautiful things that can help me personally.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to have another hand raised from Carla. I'm unmuting Carla. Do you have a question for Connie? Okay, Connie, Carla, I'll come back to you. Lori, I'm unmuting you. Go ahead.
It's another Lori?
It should be you because you raised your hand after I had cleared. Are you good on your question?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yep, thank you. Michael? Michael has a question. I've unmuted you, Michael.
I wanted to ask Connie if there would be enhancement if one were to take transactional leadership and mix it up with like say ERP leadership.
Michael, could you please speak up a little bit? We're having a hard time. It seems really muffled.
Right. I was wondering whether or not Connie could tell me if mixing up liquor participatory leadership would be an enhancement to transactional.
Well, I would say that it is not only an enhancement, that transformational leadership, the concept of it, has already been taken from many leadership styles. And so the development of it and these various areas of components for transformational leadership includes some of those ideals of participatory leadership, shared leadership, all types of leadership. And when you take the survey, it also includes executive leadership, includes visionary leadership, it includes social leadership, charismatic leadership, other types of leadership factors that will be identified based on your honest responses, and you can see how in what areas you may choose to grow or not grow in.
Well, look at, he made his point by comparing his leadership style to authoritarian that is prevalent in our system, especially within industry. And he made his point really well.
I didn't quite hear what you said.
After hearing about transactional leadership, I've been practicing participatory.
Well, you'll be able to identify with the transformational leadership style if you are a peer, because it's a very natural fit.
Okay. Is that good for Michael?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm muting you. Okay, I have a general question here for Connie. How can I share this with my supervisor in a way that it won't become defensive?
That it won't become defensive?
Right. This great information that was shared today.
I would just have a copy of my presentation and say, look at what I learned. I'm very interested in this. Is there a way we can implement this? It's already a part of, in other words, the core practice model that is going to be issued. It's already a part of the systems of care documentation that's already been issued. System of care leadership model requires transformational leaders. So it would not be offensive. It would be inclusive of evidence-based practice.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go back to Carla. Do you have a question for Connie? Okay. Let me move on to Lori. Unmuted. Question?
Yes?
Do you have a question? You raised
No,
your hand?
sir. I'm not unmuted.
No, I unmuted you on this end, so you should be able to ask your question to Connie.
We don't have any at this time.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Are there any more questions for Connie? I'm scrolling up the hand raised. And I'm checking the question box. Okay. I'm not seeing any more questions at this time. Is there anything else that you'd like to share briefly, Connie?
No, I would say other than, Ron, it's been a delight working with you and working well together. And I do hope and encourage the participants on the telephone to take this information and do a little bit of research on it. And you will find that it is quite suitable for the workplace, and it will most surely help to improve our work environment.
Okay, I'm just going to check one more time with Michael because his hand was raised again. So, Michael, do you have one last question?
Yes, I was wondering if Connie had any advice concerning dealing with a supervisor who practices authoritarian leadership. How do that?
A supervisor who passes the buck is what you said?
No, practices authoritarian leadership.
The solitarian view?
Authoritarian. Authoritarian.
Oh, authoritarian. Oh, that is about control. And that's another topic in terms of the challenges of the peer role, because managers, some don't know how to manage peers because they don't sit at desk, and then they make them sit at desk so that they can see what they're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the department I work in Manhattan.
Well, that's part of the change and the transformation that we as peers are charged with helping to bring to awareness so that something can be done about it. We may not be the ones to actually make the change, but we can certainly contribute to the change process.
Okay, Michael, is that good? Okay. So I'd like to wrap it up by once again thanking Connie for being here and sharing some awesome information, and I hope all of you will be able to use it back at the workplace. I also would like to thank Edward and Catherine as a support team for assistance in preparation leading up to and being here today. Thank you. Much gratitude goes out to all the attendees for your participation and engagement. Most importantly, to all of you for providing information and feedback in the process of transforming our mental health system. So I would like to conclude with 3 key things. In closing, I'd like to share key dates for your invaluable contributions. May 15th, the Bay Area Region Training Institute in San Mateo, 9 to 5, breakfast and lunch are being served, but you must RSVP with paperwork today by 5 or by 4:30 to be able to get a proper head count for the food that's being served. So please contact my email or phone call me at the cell number there so I can get you the reservation form so you can RSVP by 4:30 today. May 17th is the Peer Certification Summit in Sacramento, which is 9 to 5. Contact me, and especially because I'm seeing certain counties, at least in the central region, aren't being represented, and it is really, really important to be part of this process. So I will send you information about that. And then the last thing is our OSHPAD regional forums that have already started, but the next one will be May 10th in Eureka of Humboldt County and ending in Visalia of Tulare County on June 3rd. And it's really, really important for all of us to be part of this awesome shareholder feedback loop. A lot of good things come out of that. So I'm going to close with a quote. All gardening is landscape painting. And this is by Alexander Pope. If today's presentation was a work in the garden, a masterpiece has been painted. This concludes today's webinar, and I'd like to thank all of you and wish you the very best. Have a great day now.